gentle reminder that this is available at Pali Satsang on YouTube if you want to watch any of the old, the past sessions with Pali. And Colleen has also come on. Colleen. And we will, I am recording it. If when you're doing a piece of work, you do not want to be recorded, I will put your feet in the fire. No, you're welcome to ask me to not record it, but I just want you to know that whatever we do is of benefit for everybody. But if there is something that you do not want to work in public, you know.
And the Satsang YouTube channel is not a public channel, is it?
You have to have this, you have to go to Pali Satsang to get it.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
It's all yours.
Thank you. I love that it's all mine. That's the truth for all of us. It's all me. It's all I am that. Yeah, it's such a privilege to gather like this in an agreement about how things really work and the potential of seeing the way in which I may not have seen before, but in this collective, in this shared experience, there's more available for all of us. And that's I think there's a Bible verses that Jesus said, when two or more are gathered in my name, gathered in the name of love, gathered in the name of oneness, that's where the heart is, that's where the connection is, that's where the truth about reality arises. And so and honoring that by showing up this way is a contribution to a shift in consciousness that is moving, I believe, in the collective, and that it's not that it has an end or a goal, but if it had either one of those, it would be to create a new heaven and a new earth, a new possibility for experiencing connection and not being caught in the mind, experiencing judgment and fear. And so we are being here together like this. We're acknowledging that we have an affinity, a connection to that possibility for this reality. And probably that little inner secret smile that most all of you have had at different times, the awareness that this is an important incarnation, that this is an important point in what we think of as history, which is not really true because there's no time, but that's a different conversation. Right? So we're here in acknowledgement of this arising. Reality is more like a tube torus, an arising and an overflowing, right? And the experience of that would be the nature. If we had a picture of our spiritual heart, it would be the tube torus with frequency and the higher octave of love arising and overflowing and blessing everything. The work that we do here is the work is based in the 6 steps to freedom process, which is the thing that I came upon about 7 years ago that I felt was the most direct and efficacious way to look at what I had found to be the impediment to our true nature, which we call the awake state, of the impediment that I'd come upon in 2010, I think, like that, a long time ago. Yes. The impediment I came upon was that I was believing something that was not true. In the case for this body-mind unit, the belief was that my sister and my son's well-being depended on me. And that's what I call the lie of codependency. And caught up in the middle of this, and I call it the episode of Dallas, or Dynasty without the sex. Right? It's all about property, family, and money. And so in that conflagration of those energies all coming together and being in opposition and being in anger, there was a clearing here. in my sense of true nature and my sense of who I am, and everything cleared, and that the awakened state is simply not to identify with your mind fundamentally. The barrier to that is what we installed, we concluded early on, we call it the childhood wounds. They created a distortion lens through which we see reality. And so the work of waking up is a matter of subtraction. Is that Yoda? Mm-hmm. It's it's a matter of letting go of everything that's not true, because those untruth conclusions about ourselves, when we were not picked up from kindergarten on time, and we felt abandoned and fearful, and the teacher didn't like us very much anyway, and she was having to stand with us, right? So we have all these scenarios where early in this incarnation, we had an experience which left us with a self-concept, the frequency of which created the distortion lens through which we see reality. So this is a kind of kindergarten model of how we create our own reality, and why it's very often not what we think we want. Because what interferes with what our highest vision and purpose is an in-place distortion lens. And that is the information into the quantum field that then shows up as our reality. Everybody getting this? Isn't this fun? It's like, really, that is so cool. That's the way it works. So as we settle into the way it works, and we're willing to be on our own behalf, we're willing to come home to ourselves and to be in the light of appreciation, seeing the wound, allowing it to be dispelled, perhaps only seeing it when we are triggered, which is why I call triggers gold. The trigger will tell us what we may not have been cognizant of that was in play in what our world was showing up as. That was a strange sentence. But it's like we have these incidences, we have these circumstances, we have these conditions, and we believe that they're rather random, don't we? Or we may have been on the New Age train all these years and believe that we create our own reality. But why the hell would we if we're getting this shit, right? What does that mean? And what does it mean about me? Well, it means something about me. It means that I believe there is a me, and that me is not good enough, or that me will never have what she wants, or whatever the conclusion was, which created the distortion lens. So these are the fundamentals that when we understand them, when we grok them, and we are unwilling to continue the delusion and the illusion of a projected reality, and we come home to ourselves, and in that homecoming, we are present on our own behalf, seeing that if we are experiencing something that we don't want to experience, if we are seeing something that seems untoward to us, that seems wrong, or the projection is askew, then we know where to go to clear the lens of perception. Because what we are doing is we're seeing through a glass darkly. This is the New Testament version of this theory of creation. We're seeing through a glass darkly as we cleanse that darkness is our woundedness. And as that is cleared, we now are connected. We are seeing clearly now face to face with ourselves, with our true nature, with our own hearts. The willingness to just allow the space for this consideration is the opening into a shift that brings you back home to your true nature. From this place, this distorted place of believing something about ourselves and each other, because judgment gets projected, from this distorted place, we will never have the reality that's potential and clarity, the reality that arises in the awake awareness of the love that is our true nature. Right? We are compelled at the level of the problem to believe in cause and effect and the whole polarity of that the mind installed with what we call the fall. So this is kind of an early review, the primer on the nature of reality, the nature of suffering, and the access to the correction. If you're suffering, you're believing something that's not true. That's the litmus test, right? It doesn't feel good. Take a look. What is it that I'm believing? If it looks like you're believing something about an other, then remember that all judgment is self-judgment. And so if you believe they're doing it to you, correct it here with yourself and notice how your world shifts. Making sense to everybody? My peeps here?
Yeah.
They're waving? Yeah. So that's the teaching for today. And we can make a discussion about it. We can look at the places where you feel limitation or impediment to that possibility for yourself. It seems to be through technology, there's so many interesting reports from AI these days, aren't there? Really? She knows a lot more than anybody else I know does, right? Whoever she is. But the fun of the possibility, see, if we are moving from our hearts into connection with all that is in that creative flow, and then having AI handle the mundane, maybe what this needs to evolve towards, right? Because we are no longer, that would be the exaggeration and the heightened experience of the mind, which is where we've been held with rational analytic, right? The limitation of duality, the being caught in bad or good, right or wrong. And so that AI takes over that part, maybe that frees us up into our hearts, into connection, into a clear lens of perception through which we see connection, through which we see love, through which we see a new heaven and a new earth arising in our experience.
So Kim has raised her hand, so I'm going to spotlight you, Kim.
Where is she?
Oh.
Hi, Polly.
Hi,
Do you
sweetheart.
see me?
There you are. Good.
Your microphone is a little low. Is there a way to be a little?
Yeah, I'll get a little closer to it. Is that better?
You guys can
Yeah,
hear?
it's good.
Hi, everybody. Um, So Polly and I began this work earlier today in my session, meaning I gave her the backstory, so I won't give a lot of backstory, also because I'm shy about it. But somehow I'm dating a man. That's the Robin knows. Robin knows how outrageous that is.
Apparently we all do.
And I won't go into how that happened when I really was very, very committed to being and loving being single for the rest of my life. And it could still happen. So, it's only been 2 weeks, but we are, it's Zoom dating at this point, and we are looking at him coming to visit me 2 weeks from Thursday. And so this kind of dopamine amniosis of our deep spiritual erotic connection over Zoom is turning into flight schedules. And when do you go to sleep, and when do I go to sleep, and all that, and what do you eat, and what do I eat, and the thing that came up, which I have never worked on in my life.
You have to
So,
talk a little louder, Kim,
all
because
right, I don't know why it's not loud enough, but the thing that came up that I've never worked on in my life, and it's been a lot of work in this life, is my fear of his messiness. Um, it's not really the fear of his messiness, it's the fear of, you used a phrase that you've used probably every time I've ever spoken to you, Polly, or listened to you, which is being caught in fear and judgment. And yes, when I think about, I don't even know how messy he is, but I've gotten word from several directions that, including him, that he's pretty messy and that he had a wife, a mother who was a clean freak. And I'm definitely a clean freak, Celia knows, bordering on OCD. Um, and and I realized I got as far as obviously I'm triggered. What I'd like to do is see if I can do the 6 steps with this, because it's not my usual territory of the 6 steps. I'm just going to make sure my audio is the correct microphone happening. Yeah, it is. Um, so I'm triggered. It's about me. This is obvious. Um, and then I think, Polly said, well, so imagine if he's messy. And I felt deeply out of control. Um, Almost like I was being buried alive.
Mm.
Um, my mother was, most of the violence, and there was a fair amount of it, both verbally and physically in my childhood. Most of it was around having left a sock out, having not cleaned the room correctly. My mother was ballistically um, intent, violently needed the space to be clean. Um, and so there's this feeling of being out of control and having, this is so strange, but having lost my position as the resident tyrant, or as the resident queen or the one in charge, having lost the pinnacle of my self, um, as the one that matters in the room, you know, like other people are less than me, having lost that position. Um,
So those are the feelings in regard to him visiting
yeah,
you?
yeah,
The
that
feeling of
feeling,
losing your position? Yeah?
losing my position and being overwhelmed and being invaded and being out of control.
Mhm.
What I can't track is I can't track it back to an earlier experience. Now, I got your thought, Polly, when you had that thought about the past life. I don't know if you had that thought, but that's what I thought I heard you think. Um, I've been told by a teacher named Emmanuel that I had a past life as a holy man in the Middle East, and I was stoned to death. Um, and it's true, that feeling of his stuff coming at me and coming over me and me losing control of the space. I definitely can relate to that. But in this life, I think my adaptive behavior of being really bordering on maybe OCD, clean. Your house can be messy. I don't care if your house is messy. It's my house that I need. pristine. The only thing I can imagine is also my mother coming at me for me being messy, right? Um,
Yeah, I think what we're looking for here, Kim, is there is a primordial fear that underlies all this.
mhm.
I mean, the idea that something in your environment, if it's wrong or if it's not the way it should be, what it's evoking in you is the fear, and that fear is overlaid by your idea that as if you lose control, then whatever it is that you're afraid of can happen. So I think, yeah, I'm not sure this morning when we did our session, if we got to what I so instinctively feel now is that it's fear. It's
Mhm.
like I said, it's a primordial
Yeah,
fear.
it's terror, it's cold terror. And there is this feeling of, well, it's death, but being buried alive,
Mhm.
losing my place, being a little old lady with cat hair all over her clothes, who dribbled down herself, that I have to like keep that at bay. Um, I have to keep this coherent self at bay, and that, yeah, you
Yeah,
look.
so what you're doing is that you're projecting onto the dynamic of his visit and the potential of the relationship, all this catastrophic possibility.
Yeah,
Right.
because he might like not put his clothes neatly in
Yeah.
his suitcase.
And so what we want for you to bring into the light is the reality that can overlay that fear. In other words, the realization, the real check-in where you say what's happening with his clothes, even though it's in my space, is not going to kill me. And I don't know exactly the best way for you to get there, but it is a very specific shift in perspective, right? I mean, but all judgment is self-judgment. And when you, even now in your mind, you're creating that he's this disaster, right? So you're already pissed at him. I don't think, right? So it's like creating more spaciousness for messiness, more spaciousness for individuality, for
Mhm.
so that, and the only way to do that is to know that you are with yourself and that you're safe. That safety doesn't come from other people doing what you think they should do.
Mm.
Your experience early on was it did come from that. As long as you did what your mother expected, you were safer. So we understand how this got installed, but using your own heart on your own behalf to see that it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not a lunatic. I see that it doesn't mean anything, but I know there's a click that can happen in here.
Right?
Um,
That's what we're looking for. Yeah.
yeah, that I'm not sure how or whether to look for that click. I always think of the 6 steps as as going down, 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 and then back up. At the bottom of the 6 steps, um, I'm wondering, since I don't have an earlier similar to go to use Estian talk. Um, I mean, and I'm lying. I feel like I'm getting an earlier similar, which is that I am going to be killed if I am messy. If there is messiness, I will be eradicated. I'll be killed.
So
My,
that's the earlier experience, the earlier memory,
yeah.
right? What's true or what might be true about somebody because of their messiness or their lack of organization, whatever it was that your mother judged about you, and they can be killed because of that.
They're bad and dangerous.
Um,
You know, I mean, there's this proverbial story in my childhood, which I've written too many poems about, um, where I left a sock out on a chair and my mother threw a record at me and I ducked and it hit the wall. You know, but it's like that level of I am going to be killed if anything is wrong. Okay, so here we are back in the same old territory. I don't mean that it's bad, but wow,
Right.
that was
It
good.
is the same
That
territory.
is my same territory. I am bad and wrong.
Right.
And if I'm not super vigilant every second, I'm going to accidentally do something like leave a sock on a chair, and there's going to be a record slicing my head off.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I can't relax ever because who
And it's
knows?
incumbent upon you to make sure that everybody else is living up to the same, um,
Well, they are me.
yeah, for
I am
sure.
completely narcissistic in this space.
Right,
Like, right? Like if he's messy, it's me being messy,
right.
you know? And I just have to make him into a better me. Poor guy. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. So
So
that's
you
the bottom
believe that
line,
you are bad and wrong.
that I'm bad and wrong and can't be trusted.
Right. Interesting. Mhm. And you can see that. Can, is any light of awareness available to see that that was the conclusion of a 3-year-old or 5-year-old, right?
Yes.
That it was not inherently true about you, but as when that occurred for that little Kim,
Mm.
there was no other place for her to go except that conclusion.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So as awareness, you're looking at that whole scenario.
Yeah.
And so what forgiveness is the shining of a light of awareness on that distortion lens. I'm bad and wrong. And I can in any moment create disaster for myself, for sure. That was what got installed, right?
Mhm.
And it was unavoidable then,
Yeah.
but it was never true. It was never true that you were bad and wrong.
Yeah, it's so clear in that particular vignette,
Right.
that, you know, and the generations of that, you know, that my poor mother was probably flipping out because I was messy and she had that same thing, you know. Um, yeah, I get it. I do get it.
The beauty of this work that I don't often talk about, I have talked about it, but it is lineage work in the sense that you're erasing a familial pattern. Because, you know, as much as we impose the linear sequentiality of time and space, it's not the nature of reality in terms of energy and frequency. So doing this work now, it can clear it for your mother and probably her
Yeah.
mother or whomever, her father maybe. But and it's not in order to motivate us to do it, but it's in order for us to understand the potent power of an insistence on an identity. I'm bad and wrong.
Mm, mm.
I mean, clearly that can be, you can back away from that a little bit. It might still be there to some degree, but it's like a label on a screen, on a
Wow.
pot. Uh,
Wow. That was so clear, Polly. It's so clear, the movement through the adaptive behavior and the desperation of that adaptive behavior when I imagined having to run around after him and clean up all the time, right? But that's all for fear of being that
That's right.
5-year-old with a record coming at her head,
Yeah.
you know.
And the conclusion. And so with that label, I'm bad and wrong, the idea that you would have a partner, whether romantic partner or just a life partner who was not the way that threatens you.
Mhm.
See, with that label, the quantum field will show up. And in a certain extent, to the degree that you've had reports about him from his neighbors, right? I mean, he's already been basically crucified. But the relief from one's own badness and wrongness gives us such an opening into connection, into allowing, into experiencing an apparent other and a circumstance in a much easier, happier way. Let it be. You know, I always say everything we need to know, we learned from the Beatles. Love is all there is, and let it be. That points to the field of allowing, right?
Yeah.
The conversation with yourself that can possibly help to alleviate the fear is your willingness to say what's true for you in the moment, like pick up your dirty socks, there's a hamper in the bathroom, or put your dishes in the sink, or whatever will give you a kind of experience of being on your own behalf that was not available with the label I'm bad and wrong.
Mm.
So we're looking for self-forgiveness for an error that was unavoidable.
Yeah, and it's like Katie's last step. I look forward to him being messy so that this terrified child can come forth and be recognized for the truth
And be
of
safe in the
himself.
middle of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Thank you, Polly. Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Kim.
that.
Colleen has her hand up.
Is she there? There. Hi. Hi, sweetheart.
Hi, Polly.
Hi, Carmen.
Thank you, Kim. That was really beautiful, and it helped me figure out some things. I have something that's kind of sort of in the same ballpark. One of the things that I do for a living is clean houses. And I've noticed lately that when I'm done with a job, that I am carrying a bunch of stuff energetically from the place that I cleaned. And it always helps that I clear my field and return everything to God. Um, and I just did a cleaning job today. And this guy, I think, is probably an alcoholic. And I was feeling all of his, stuff while I was there, just because I'm that way. And then as Kim was talking and you were talking, Polly, I was going in and thinking, well, I sure I can clear it, but why am I picking this stuff up in the first place? And so what I got was that as a child, that was one of my things that I felt I could do to ensure my safety, that I could, just get rid of energies or whatever, help somebody energetically. And so what I got to is that I didn't think that I was worth being protected. And so the only way that I could do that is that I needed to protect myself.
That you needed to what? Yourself?
Protect myself
Yourself? Right.
by taking on, clearing energy, taking it on, walking out of some place or a room with, the bad stuff. And yeah, there's a lot of that. Something is wrong and it's my fault and I've got to take care of it. Like somehow I made this happen. It's my responsibility. And what I really wanted to know is that all I'm responsible for is cleaning these people's house. I'm not responsible for them and their woundedness. And I think that I need to just really forgive myself for believing that I wasn't worth protecting. I wasn't even worth protecting from themselves. Like, I wasn't worth my mom's protection from her or my dad's protection from him. So I forgive myself for ever having believed that I wasn't worth people in my life that respect me and protect me or just treat me with dignity and respect. And I walk, go ahead.
Opening when you find out that it's your job, right? It's like, I'm the one. The idea that they're not doing it is seated energetically and fundamentally in my own self lack of protection. My attention particles have gone out expecting something from someone out there when I haven't given it to myself. And what you just said about being in a space and knowing that that's theirs, you don't take it on. That's yourself taking care of yourself. Being on one's own behalf is a very high bar because we come in dependent and looking out at caretakers who are at best negligent. Sometimes they're abusive. And so what we get these mixed messages. Most everybody gets mixed messages. And then we don't know how or what it means to have our attention particles back with ourselves, true north on our own behalf, saying what's true for us, because wouldn't work in the family of origin. And so we got programmed into looking external, trying to figure out what's going on, becoming strategic and how to handle that, or how to help them even, to the negligence of our own true north, present here, saying what's true for me. That only becomes available to us, for most of us, in our adult years and after a lot of work. But you're exactly right. Leave whatever is anybody else's with them, not your job, and be kind to yourself. And from that place, I think you'll find some real peace and ease.
Thank you. Yeah, I really loved what you said to Kim about stating her needs and finding ways to show up on her own behalf. Yeah, that felt really good in my,
It's the thing
yeah,
that we
for myself.
Yeah, your son would.
I just said for myself, that felt really good to think of it that way. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, our attention is what we have to support. It's where energy comes from. And I mean, even in the phrase that we all use of I'm paying attention, right? It's a payment. It's like, no, don't pay that. Don't pay that price. Bring it all back here. Be present on your own behalf. And from this place, you are of great service. You can connect because nothing is off kilter energetically here. This is what happens to us. So I think that you'll be much more on your own side now and leave whatever is lower frequencies in those houses with them. And
Yeah. Thank you.
yes, sweetheart. Thank you.
Thanks, Polly.
So we have about 10 more minutes. Is there anyone? Yeah.
actually had a few situations and I've narrowed down to the most recent.
Who's this?
And maybe I'll contact.
Is it
her.
Hermine?
Yes, it's for me.
Yes, sweetheart,
I recognize my voice.
I did.
Okay, so, as some of you know, I lost my husband, my beloved, about 2.5 years ago. And I became very reclusive with the combination of COVID and then him and the dog and all of it. And I just started getting back into life more or less. And I was invited, I like to play games. And I'd never played games other than at Las Vegas for money. So this dice game is a $20 buy-in, and I was very happy just playing and not getting competitive. And then this woman triggered me, goes, oh, you're ahead, I think I'm gonna, anyways, there was some kind of competitive thing that got my adrenaline going, and I just, there's no way you can know what the dice are gonna do. And, you know, the winner takes a large part of the pot of $240, and it goes down, you know, from there. And I just was so agitated about the whole thing, and I did win. And I realized that in my family, the only sport we played was competitive race eating at the dinner table. It would be, and my father was very critical of it. Everything wasn't just so perfect. And food was everything in my house. Both my parents were compulsive overeaters, and I used to weigh 215 pounds. And, you know, I had that gene, and I realized that I just felt like I was back trying to beat my brother and my father and be right. And it was just, I got that from the experience. And I realized that I'm probably not a person who can do that. Because I hadn't gotten triggered the first time I played. And I played games with other groups that aren't for money. And maybe that's just not my kind of cup of tea. And I just realized that my family, I work a lot on my parents and my family and my origin, and I've had a lot of loss in my life. I've lost my son now, my husband, my beloved husband, and I feel like I don't want to have to deal with my issues coming up anymore, which I hope I can, of bringing that into my current present, in the present. And I don't know exactly.
The interesting thing about it is that we don't have a choice about our issues coming up, do we? You didn't even know this woman at the game who
No, I
triggered
heard one
you.
other time. We
Right.
had something in common. We both
Yeah,
have been social workers in our
right.
one part of life.
So what, you know, my oldest son, who used to be on the Zoom call, he's on the East Coast, it's too late for him. But he once said, Mom, I know you think that triggers are gold, but I'm over it. I don't want any more triggers. But we do, what the trigger is, it's a window, it's a little viewer into what's creating the difficulty in our lives and within ourselves. We think it's out there, and if that person would be different, we would not have that experience. But we're the ones who have the lens of that.
Yeah, I realized
woundedness.
that was within me.
Yeah,
That
good
wasn't
for
about
you.
her.
Yeah,
That
good
was
for you.
about me.
Right, good,
And
yeah.
I felt so excited because my father had this thing about always being right. And so I felt like I had defeated the family somehow by winning. And it wasn't,
Right.
really had nothing to do with it, you know.
Right. Yeah, to get that it's about me and it doesn't have to be mine. That's kind of a high bar. It's like I can see that me being triggered, being pulled into this reaction is about me and my wound, but I don't have to be available for it at all. I can see through it. I can do the work. I can see that I've been believing something about myself that's not true. That was the distortion field in which the quantum field is like, you know, it's like God in the sense. It always only says yes to whatever we're inputting. Right, so we're inputting tension, we're inputting limitation, we're inputting I've never been loved, nobody cares about me, I'm not protected. And then the field is like, in come the clowns, you know, it's like, now we've got what we had been in resistance to, because that's informing, You know, if you want to resist the idea of the quantum field being in response, because you like the idea since you were a little person in Sunday school believing in God, which is just fine when you're 4. The way that reality works is God, and the way that reality works is based in, even now, the little elementary version that we have of understanding quantum reality. It's like, as viewed, as I see it through this distortion lens of my early wounding, so it appears. That was the teaching we've been, the Sangha has been reading together, Paul Levy's Quantum Revelation book, and it's spelled out there in detail, but the way that it impacts how we experience what reality shows up for us and how we experience it is such a powerful get, you know. I mean, all of us were around, well, not everybody's as old as I am, but most of us were around when in New Age circles, you create your own reality was kind of like a throwaway line for all of us. But the way in which it actually works is just now becoming to be in the common vernacular, the understanding. So we have this understanding, and so whatever is appearing, we don't need to work at the level of the problem. Sometimes pointed to as moving the furniture around on the deck of the Titanic, we need to come home to our understanding of what is causing the matter. And that distortion lens, I'm not good enough, I don't matter, is the cause in the matter of the information that goes into the quantum field and then shows up as a 3D reality. It's a very exciting way to understand, and I believe that it's helpful in dealing with what you don't want, what you think that you do want that you don't have, and all of that. And so it's, I think you have, Hermine, a good handle on your participation in your experience.
Done a lot of work over the years,
Yeah.
and I still get triggered, and I guess that's always gonna happen.
Right.
No matter
Until
how
it
much work
doesn't.
I do,
Right.
or any of us do.
Good.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, sweetie.
Can I just ask you a question about that?
Sure.
Because I think one of the things I like about you is that.
Oh. Yes.
One of the things I like about you is that it feels like there's an end to the triggers. Like you've come to a place where there is an end to the trigger.
That's true here.
So that's the possibility you
Right.
you hold
absolutely.
for the rest of us, that it's not just
Totally.
an endless Sisyphean kind of,
Right. Rock up the hill.
yeah.
No, there will be an end, because at a certain point, you simply don't identify with the distortion of your conclusion about yourself. Whenever that happens, then what's showing up out here, you will not be in resistance to it, so there won't be a trigger. But what will show up out here will be resonant with your sense of who I am. It will no longer be viewed through the distortion of your self-judgment. And so there aren't any triggers. I mean, I've said when did I wake up?
10, I think.
Said 2010.
2010. Yeah, I've been willing to be triggered ever since. I thought when I had the diagnosis for the macular degeneration, which is progressively diminished my eyesight, that there would be a trigger, but there wasn't, because there was no person that felt like that was a problem. What goes away is the me. The me got created by, I'm not good enough, I'm a piece of shit, I don't matter. That created the me. What falls away when you know your true nature, I am the awake awareness in which reality arises, and there's no me here, there are no triggers. Because, and now, the other part of that story, the other part of that story is that the seeing, it's a perceptual reality. The seeing is through a glass clearly, not a distortion lens anymore. So the information into the quantum field is not one that it responds to with difficulty. Is that good?
Does that reflect in the physical body?
Yeah,
Does
the
this
body,
physical body still have any kind of,
well, this one doesn't see very well. I could do a trade-in on that. But the physical body is the first part that takes the hit of a frequency, right? I mean.
so there's a discernment for you between frequency and trigger, so the body can still have frequency hits, I'm asking you.
Mhm. Right, well, the only thing I deal with at this point, as I approach my 86th birthday, shit can happen, we know, to vehicles.
Right.
But the idea that it's happening to me is what's gone. So, yeah, it's, you deal with it, people talk about all kinds of alternative healing and so forth, and I'm up for that if I have a problem. But there's no me here to believe that the problem is the suffering, and there may be discomfort and pain.
Yeah.
Because the body is taking a hit of an incarnation for every one of us, an incarnation that included us being against ourselves. And those hits came early on, and then they show up much later on, seems anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you, Polly.
Mhm.
I'm gonna stop the recording here.